Hello, Ashley here with HeartHookHome.com, and today we are going to make one of these adorable Heavenly Hygge hats. They're adorable. They're perfect. They're so warm and so fuzzy. I don't know how well you can see the fuzz in the video, but it is so fuzzy and it's the warmest hat you'll ever wear. So today we are going to be making the newborn size. Cute, adorable little newborn size. This technique is the same for all sizes of this pattern. There are 7 sizes. I am using Red Heart Hygge yarn. This is a size 5 bulky weight yarn, and we're going to be using Tunisian crochet in order to crochet this one up. Since this yarn is fuzzy and it's kind of hard to see on video, I'm going to be using Patton's Classic Wool Bulky to actually make the one in the video because I want to be able to see the stitch definition as we are working it up together. I do recommend using the Hygge yarn. You could use any other size 5 bulky weight yarn if you like. I just like how warm this is, and with the weather turning, it is so cold. So isn't it adorable? We're going to work it up. It's going to be awesome. So let me move my supplies out of the way. To start, you're going to want to have a 7mm Tunisian hook. You don't have to have the one with the cable. A stick hook would work just fine if you have a 7mm in your set. In order to start, you're going to want to leave a decently long tail. We're going to use this tail at the end of crocheting our hat so that we can cinch up the sides, sew up the sides together. Now, if you have a double-ended Tunisian hook, you could make this work in the round, but I am assuming that most of you do not. I don't have a double-ended crochet hook, Tunisian hook, so we are making it as a flat rectangle that we will fold together, sew up the side seam, and then we're going to cinch up the top of the hat, right? So go ahead and leave a decently long tail. The bigger the hat, the longer a tail you're going to want to leave. I leave that in the pattern, which is a free pattern. So we're going to start by doing our chain. For the newborn size here, I'm going to do a chain of 38. So I'm going to chain 38. Okay, so here I have my chain of 38. It's going to look big because it just is. Heads are bigger than you think they are, right? And it does shrink up a little bit as you go along. So this is the newborn size. Now that I've got my initial chain, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a loop in the second, skip the first one, pull up a loop in the second chain from your hook, and I like to look at the back bar. It leaves a cleaner bottom edge. So I'm going to insert my hook in that second chain from my hook, and I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'm going to go into the next one and pull up a loop and pull up a next one all the way to the end of the row. When I get to the end, I should have 38 loops on my hook because I chained 38. So I'm just going to continue adding all of these to my hook as I work my way down the chain. All right, now that we've made it to the end, we have all of these loops on our hook. So this is the bottom row. This is your first row of your Tunisian crochet. Now, to start your backward pass, because Tunisian, you always work, it's like a typewriter. You always work from the right to the left, and then when you get to the end here, you're going to go from the left to the right, and then you're going to start another row and you're going to go from right to left and then left to right. So this is your forward pass, and now we're going to do our backward pass. So in order to do your backward pass in Tunisian, you're always going to do a chain 1 on the left side here. And what you're doing when you're creating that chain 1 is you're giving it a nice clean edge for the edge of your piece. So do your chain 1 first. Now you're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to the end, all the way. Okay, so now we have made our way all the way back to the beginning. And so now this is one row of our Tunisian crochet. If you look closely, you can see that each one of these stitches has, let me find a pointer here, each one of these stitches has a front vertical bar and a back vertical bar, and you can kind of see in between it if you kind of pull it apart a little bit. So this right here is one stitch. Here's another stitch, and here's another stitch. So what we're going to do to start our second row, and this is all you're doing for the rest of the pattern. As many rows as I tell you to do, you're going to do this row over and over and over, okay? It's quite easy. I like it. Easy is good. Okay, when you start your next row of Tunisian, you're always going to skip this first loop here. You don't ever want to work into that, because just like on this side, how this is your outside pretty loop, over here, this is your outside pretty loop. So you want to leave this one completely alone. So you always skip that first vertical bar. Now, what we're going to do all the way to the end is we're going to repeat 4 stitches, okay? So we're going to look at that first actual stitch here, and you can see how we've got the front and then the back loop. I'm going to insert my hook right into the center, into that hole there, all the way through to the back of the piece, and I'm going to pull up a loop. That's called a Tunisian knit stitch. Now I'm going to do the same thing in the next stitch, right through the middle, all the way to the back, and pull up a loop. So now I've got 2 knit stitches. Now I'm going to do 2 Tunisian purl stitches, which means that we're going to bring the yarn to the front of our work. So put your hook behind it like this. And now you're going to insert your hook only into the front vertical bar of this next stitch. So insert right underneath that vertical bar. Now you're going to want to pull that yarn to the back again. So like this. Takes some getting used to. Hold down this yarn at the bottom with your thumbnail so that it doesn't go anywhere, and then pull up a loop. And that's a Tunisian purl stitch. And we're going to do another one of those in the next. So bring your yarn to the front of your hook. Insert your hook under the vertical bar, just the front vertical bar of that next stitch. Finagle it to the back, and now hold it with your thumbnail and pull up a loop. So now we've got 2 Tunisian knit stitches and then 2 Tunisian purl stitches. Now we're going to do 2 knit and then 2 purl, and 2 knit and 2 purl, all the way to the end of the row. So now that I've done my 2 purls here, I'm going to knit twice, Tunisian knit. So I'm going through the entire thing, through the middle of that stitch, just like we did at the beginning, and pull up a loop. Now go into the next in between those 2 loops and pull up a loop in there. So those are your 2 Tunisian knit stitches again. Now we're going to do, in these next 2 right here, we're going to do Tunisian purl stitches. So bring your yarn to the front of your hook, insert it under that first vertical bar, do a little flippy flip, getting your yarn to the back, pinch it with your thumbnail, and pull it on up. Do it again, pull that yarn to the front, insert under that hook or that loop there, rotate it to the back, pinch it, pull it through. So now we've done 2 purl, so now we're going to do 2 knit stitches. So in these next 2, we're going to go straight through the center, all the way to the back, and pull up a loop. All the way through the center of the next, and pull up a loop. Now, since we did our 2 knit stitches, we are going to do 2 purl stitches. Bring your yarn to the front, make a purl stitch. Beautiful. Do it again. Beautiful. Now we did 2 purls, so now we're going to do 2 knit. So go straight through the center of that stitch, pull up a loop, center of the next stitch, pull up a loop. Now do 2 purl stitches. You can kind of move your pieces down, your stitches down your hook to get them out of the way. We're going to do 2 purl stitches, purl again. Now we're going to do 2 knit stitches, straight on through, pull up that loop, straight on through, pull up that loop, and now I'm ready for 2 purl stitches again. Let me adjust my yarn here so it's not pulling. Okay, purl stitch, here I come, 1, pinch it, pull it, 2, pinch it, pull it. Now knit, straight on through, 2 times, and now a purl stitch. The purls are definitely more of a learning curve than the knit stitches. The knits I like because you literally just insert your hook and pull up that loop. Now that's not to say that purl doesn't get easier as you go along, and by the end of this hat you will be a professional purler. So we are just going to continue 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 all the way to the end of the row. I've made my way all the way down to the end of this row, and you should end with 2 purl stitches. Okay, so now I've made my way all the way to the end of my row. These are my last 2 purl stitches, so now I'm going to go through both loops of this side stitch to keep my edges nice and pretty. So insert your hook under both sides of that outside stitch and pull up a loop. And now you've completed the forward pass of row 2 all the way to the end. Now in order to start our backward pass, you're going to chain 1 and you're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 all the way to the end of the row. Now that I've gotten to the end here, I am going to do the same exact thing that I just did on row 2. I'm going to complete that again for however many rows as stated in the size that you're making. For the newborn, I'm only going to do 16 rows. So I've already done row 1 and row 2, so I only have 14 more rows to go before I start sewing it together. So let's do this row together again. And then for the next row, you're just going to continue the same exact thing until I tell you to stop on the pattern. So your first two stitches, you're always going to skip this first vertical bar because that's the side of your piece. Now we're going to do 2 knit stitches in these 2 knit stitches from the previous row. So your stitches should always line up. I'm going straight through this stitch all the way to the back and pulling up a loop. That's a knit stitch. Doing that again. 2 knits. Now I'm going to do 2 purls. You can tell the difference between the knits and the purls here. That's actually something to note. So I'm going to zoom in here so we can take a look at the difference between the knits and the purls. As you can see, your knits are always going to have this upside down U shape, right? Your purls are always going to have this vertical bar or this horizontal bar going across the front of your stitches. So these are knits and these are purls. These are knits, and then these are purls, right? So you're going to alternate 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 purls, all the way to the end of the row. And that is all we're doing the entirety of this pattern. So now I'm going to do 2 purls in my purls. And now 2 knits in the next. We are always going to end with 2 purls. And now we're going to go into both sides of that end stitch, both loops, to keep that nice clean edge. Pull up a loop. Now to start our backward pass, we are always going to chain 1 first, and now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 all the way to the end of the row. So now I have completed row 3 of my hat. So I'm going to continue doing this same exact row all the way up, and as you go, you will start to notice you'll start to notice that your knit stitches, these are my knits and these are my purls, and these are my knits and these are my purls, and you will notice that they line up very nicely. So as you're going, if you notice like, ooh, that doesn't look right, like it looks like this one might be pulling to the back a little bit, just make sure that you haven't skipped any of these purl loops in the middle here. Other than that, your piece should be working up beautifully. So you're going to start your width and we're going to go up. I'm going to finish my next, go to row 16 because I'm making the newborn size. And when I get finished with row 16, I will hook back up with you and we will sew up our hat and complete it and get it ready to be worn. So I'm going to work up this, you guys work up yours, and when we're done, we're going to meet back up and we will continue finishing our hat. Okay, so here I have all 16 rows of my newborn beanie pattern. Let's zoom in a little bit. I want to show you how to count these rows so that you can count them yourself as well. This bottom one is a little bit hard to see. You can kind of tell that it's coming out here at the very bottom. I like to look at my knit stitch to count my very first one. So this one right here is going to be row 1. So we've got row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16 is the one that I just completed. So now, in order to complete your hat, what we're going to do is you need to slip stitch to close up all of these gaps at the top. So we're going to slip stitch across this entire row to where we end over here. So to slip stitch, you can either go through the front vertical bar of all of the stitches, or you can go through the knit, the whole entirety of the knit stitch. It doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to tell it anyway. I'm going to go into the knit, into the center of my knits and pull through my slip stitch. On the purls, I'm just going to go through the front, and we're just going to slip stitch all the way across. When we get to the end, we're going to go through both sides of that V and do a slip stitch just like normal. And now we are going to fasten off, and we're going to leave a long enough tail that we can use it to feed back through this whole thing and cinch up the top of the hat. So you don't need a super long tail, just anything, I mean, long enough to cinch it up. So I'm going to leave it up about like that. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off here, so pull that straight on through and make my knot. Boom. Got it. Let me move my hook out of the way. Now what we're going to do is you've got this long tail where we started, and you've got this long tail where we finished. So go ahead and look at the inside of the hat. We're going to fold your pieces in like this. So this is going to be the top of the hat, and this is the bottom of the hat. So I'm going to move my end of piece over here, and I'm going to grab my needle, and we're going to sew this bad boy together. Okay, so go ahead and thread your needle. We're going to sew stitch for stitch. So we're going to start at the bottom here. I'm just going to go through the first stitch here. We're just going to pull that together. And now we are going to literally sew stitch for stitch. Don't go too tight that it starts to pucker, but don't go too loose that your stitches want to pull apart either. So we're sewing this up using the mattress stitch. And this is why we wanted to leave a longer tail at the beginning of our hat, so that we had enough to go all the way up. And I don't know if I will. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. Okay, now when you get to the top, you're going to go ahead and weave in these ends. I like to go to the inside. I should have cut my tail a little longer, huh? And then I'm just going to weave in my ends through the middle of these stitches on the inside of the hat. My tail's a little short, so I'm going to come back another angle. I like to go through the fibers of the yarn as well as just underneath the stitches. My tail's too short, so I'm going to feed this up through the bottom. I just need another couple of inches, dang it. Word to the wise, go long. If in doubt. There we go. I might not even have to clip that. Okay, so now that we've got our side seam seamed up here, this is the way our hat is going to be oriented. Now we've got this longer tail that we used when we fastened off, that we left. So we're gonna go ahead and thread that as well. You're going to, let me pull this together, cinch this together here, just to give it a nice clean top edge. Perfect. Okay, now in order to create the cinched up top part of this hat, I'm just going to insert my needle somewhere along the top of this piece here, the whole piece, and we're just going to kind of feed it through every couple of row ends. Then pull your yarn through, continue and it doesn't have to be a direct science. I mean, just put it in there wherever. As long as you're making it go through every other row or so, it will turn out just fine. Okay, we're going to do this the whole way around the hat. So now we are going to take our tail here, since we've gone around the whole entire opening, and we're just going to pull it together like this, to where you've got just a little bit of an opening here where you can stick your fingers through. Now go ahead and pull it as tight as you can without ripping the yarn. If you break the yarn, we got a problem. So if you do break the yarn, just feed in another new piece and do the same exact thing that we're doing now. Just be more ginger with it. So we're going to cinch it up. So I like to go in an opposite place. So here's where we left off, right? I'm going to hold that with my thumb a little bit tight, and I'm going to go to an opposite corner here, or an opposite part of the circle. Now I'm going to cinch that up. Now I'm going to come opposite from that one over here somewhere and pull that one together. Now I'm going to go over here a little bit, cinch that together, and we're just going to do this the whole way around. I will say that with the Hygge yarn that I recommend for this pattern, this whole portion looks a lot cleaner because it's the fuzzy yarn. And also, if you're going to add a pom-pom to it, or if you're considering adding a pom-pom, it will help to hide any of the imperfections. Honestly, it doesn't look too bad when you're done. If you cinch it well, and I mean like many times, then it should not be a problem. All right, so let's see how this is looking here. Here's our little hat. Here's our little cinched top. Not looking too bad, right? We're just gonna go and weave in a little bit more of these ends, make them look a little bit more professional. I'm going to grab this part right here. Now I'm going to go to the opposite side over here and just kind of keep on cinching it up like this. Just make sure that you're always only grabbing the top of your hat and not going like down the stitches farther down the beanie itself. Make sure that you're always staying up towards the top of the hat as much as you can. When you've got it cinched up nicely, all of your knits should come together fairly cleanly. You're going to put your hook or your needle on the inside. We're going to pull that nice and tight without breaking our yarn. And now I'm just going to kind of weave in my ends on the inside. And this is why we leave a longer tail when we fasten off, is so that we've got all of this already attached, so that it goes a little cleaner at the end. Okay, I've probably woven in my ends pretty well. It's only been about 60 times. I'm a classic overweaver inner. Classic. Okay, so now I'm going to trim my yarn. Ta-da! And here we have our adorable little hat. Isn't that just great? I love it. It's so cute. I love how the ridges here, we've got our knit stitches and we've got our purl stitches. Here's the same size in the Hygge. Now you can see this yarn is a little bit bigger than this one, and so this one came out a little bit larger. It's very, very important, especially with hats like this. This one is actually a newborn size, and I know that because I have a hat chart on the blog. So my gauge on this one is a little bit bigger, obviously. This is probably more of like a 3 to 6 month size instead of the newborn. So definitely make sure, like for me, I made this one and I should have checked the gauge with this one, and I probably should have used a smaller hook to make it just a little bit smaller, but I did not check the gauge. So don't be like me and not check gauge, and make sure that your hat turns out the right size. So I hope that you love this pattern. I hope that you love the feel of the Hygge yarn next to your face. It is so warm and delicious. If you do not have Hygge yarn on hand, you can use any bulky weight and it will turn out just as beautiful as our pink one has here with this pattern classic wool. It's adorable. It's beautiful. So if this was your first foray into Tunisian crochet, I hope that you enjoyed this pattern. I hope that you love Tunisian and this new skill set. It's a lot of fun. If you're looking for more Tunisian patterns, keep an eye on the blog. I've got several new ones coming out in the works. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you love your hats, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.